Oregon Ducks will be able to say they won the very first National Football Championship that counts. Well, that has a playoff attached to it anyway, but it's a big deal. Bucks and Ducks tonight. I'm telling you, 42. I did some math during the break. I've got 75% of all the different score predictions. There are about 50 different ones here. They all come with 42 for the Buckeyes. Like, that must just be the Freudian number that everybody's got in their head. What is it about the Bucks putting 42 on the board tonight, man? I just had Kim Goodman send us a comment on Facebook. 42-41, Ohio State over Oregon there. It made me laugh because I said, man, here we go with the 42 again. And I got a whole page of them on the other page, man. And it just seems like no matter what people have the Ducks at, I keep coming across the Bucks at 42. I don't know. Maybe I'll tell you what, if they score 42 points tonight, then that'll tell you something. Just remember that I said that now at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday. But anyways, we're going to talk about all of that. You guys keep your takes coming. Hit us up. If you want to leave it on the hotline, we'll play it during the last segment of the show. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. Facebook and Twitter is the place to be. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Email us, of course, TheSportsFix@AOL.com. Getting ready to go to the phone lines here. Let's get Dan Wismar in on the phone as we're rolling into it just hours before kickoff of the national championship game. Dan Wismar, how are you doing this afternoon?
Doing great, J-Rock. Just trying to figure out a way to while away the next 7 or 8 hours here before we get going. And fighting a little bit of a cold, but I got my Kleenex box here at the ready, so we're good to go. How are you doing? Your eye feeling better?
I mean, it's actually what was amazing is like just the other day, the swelling finally went down around it. And then I noticed, I said, man, why does it look like the middle of it didn't go down at all? It's because there's still a broken bone inside of it that's healing. So it's still in the healing process, but it doesn't hurt as much. I can talk without it killing. It was killing me by the end of last week. I'm telling you, doing the show, hey, you can call me whatever you want. You go break your eye socket and talk for 3 hours a day and tell me how good you feel. But
yeah, well, you and Peyton Manning just gutting it out.
Hey, Aaron Rodgers, man, too. I'm telling you. Before we talk about the national title game, since you just brought it up, I was talking a little playoffs before the break, man. And I hear you about Manning, but I mentioned it, Aaron Rodgers, man. Just watching him at the end of the first half, dragging one leg behind him, dragging his team with him down the field. I'm telling you, I'd be hard-pressed. As much as I'm a huge mark for Tom Brady, I'd be hard-pressed to pick another quarterback. If you said, pick a team from scratch, draft your quarterback, man, Aaron Rodgers would be my guy, man. Aaron Rodgers is just amazing. He gutting it out yesterday and then coming through the way he did. I love that guy, man.
Yeah, I think you're right. I like him too, and both he and Manning obviously physically hobbled. I guess the only thing about the outcome of the Cowboys-Packers game that's a little bit distressing is that you're going into the NFC Championship game with really a hobbled Packers team, and where you would have had a Cowboys team at full strength.
Yeah, they're gonna. Well, and the Cowboys have gone to Seattle and won this year. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly,
I was kind of intrigued by that, but now you've got a hobbled. Like I said, man, if they, because Aaron Rodgers warmed up in the second half. If he is as loose, it took him that long to get loose in the first half. He may get eaten alive before Green Bay even gets a chance to get anything going for themselves. Because. That could very quickly become a hostile, well, not just hostile, but a very, very difficult environment even for a great quarterback, man. But let me ask you, was that a catch or was that not a catch? I thought Des Bryant just went up and made a play, man. To me, that was a catch.
It was a ridiculous call. Yes, Jerry, it was a catch. And the thing that makes the rule, to me, even more ridiculous is that if a guy doesn't go to the ground, or if he goes out of bounds, if he steps out of bounds and immediately drops the ball, well, he had it while he was in.
Yep.
This whole idea that he's got to, if he falls down in any way, whether he's pushed out or if he falls down, he's got to not only hit the ground and hold it, he's got to roll over and come up with it without the ball touching the ground. It's just ridiculous. If there's any such thing as making a football move, after you secure the catch, he secured the catch, he had it, both hands. He then took, a step or two and made a football move to reach and stretch for the goal line, even if he hadn't taken a couple steps, certainly the football move of stretching and reaching for the goal line would have been considered a football move by anybody's definition of the term. And so I think it was a ridiculous call. I think the NFL really has to revisit that. There's no doubt it was a catch, and the Cowboys got a little bit of the same kind of cooking that they benefited from the week before. And like you, I didn't lose any sleep for the poor Cowboys, but it's something the NFL is going to have to address, because it really is kind of a silly rule. And you've secured the ball, you've taken a step, you've made a move for the goal line, you've put it down. Technically, any other player on a running play or on a pass play where he's already caught the ball and taken a few steps, as soon as any part of you or the ball touches the ground, in theory, the play is dead, over. No matter what happens to the ball, whether it moves in your hand or jarred loose or whatever, it doesn't matter. Ground can't cause a fumble. So,
right.
The ground can't cause a fumble rule should have applied to Des Bryant. There's no doubt in my mind.
Ground can't cause a fumble, but it can cause an incomplete pass. And it can. Like I said earlier, it can. I've seen instances where that played a part in it. This one, to me, and I thought it was a good application of the rule as it's written. Like, the rule is the problem, and I think the NFL needs to address that and the way it's called, because I guess you could say they did follow the rule of the letter of it, you know what I mean? But, just watch it. It's a catch. There's no doubt in my mind. And like I said, when you watch the Calvin Johnson one, to me, the Calvin Johnson one's even more stupid, because he was showing off, in my opinion. He made the catch and did the whole, as he's getting up, he put the ball on the ground and stood up without the ball, and all of a sudden that's considered not the following through with the catch. And I'm like, get out of here. He caught it, landed, and was showing off by the time he stood up, and I thought that was ridiculous too. They've got to figure out the interpretation of that rule. Again, no sleep lost for the Cowboys, but I like to see things play out on the field, and there was plenty of time left for Green Bay to answer, so that wouldn't even have been necessarily a game-deciding play. That would have just set up a lot more drama in the last few minutes.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that it follows the letter of the rule because of the football move interpretation. If there's not a fumble involved, all you've got to do is secure the catch, make a football move, then anything that happens after that is independent of whether the pass was complete or incomplete. And so I think clearly that would qualify as a football move. So they need to clarify that. And the other big thing that the NFL needs to do this offseason, I have no confidence that they will do it, but that would be to get some clarification on what is pass interference and what is not. The differences between illegal contact downfield and pass interference and how that is interpreted.
Yes.
Between holding and pass interference. One's a 5-yard penalty, one can be a 45-yard penalty. If I could change one rule in the NFL, it would make 15 yards the maximum penalty for pass interference. I think it's ridiculous that, a little push by a defensive back down the field can result in a 50-yard penalty, 3 times what the very worst personal foul that a person can be accused of doing. It's just silly. I think they need to adopt the college rule of a max 15-yard penalty on a pass interference. But that's just me. That's what I would do. I think it would improve the game.
No, I'm with you. You know what, too? That kind of plays into something that we could use to segue right into the college football championship. There was a lot of talk in the last 2 weeks of the all-star cruise. You and I have even mentioned it, about how silly it seems, even though in theory it sounds like a good idea. Referees, and we'll put them all to best for the weekends. But as you've mentioned before, as we've talked about, you lose that like the argument that could be made for the Browns offense being worse when you added Josh Gordon, because even though some of the other receivers were lesser, the chemistry was better because they had been working together all season long. And same thing there. You get guys that maybe on their own resume are the all-star officials, but they haven't called things together. One guy's not used to seeing what the back judge says and this and that and so forth. And so that plays a part in that too, especially subjective calls like what we're talking about. Did he hit the ground? Is it pass interference? Those type of things that can be more subjectively interpreted. And from what I understand, am I wrong? I was going to ask you, how about tonight for this game? Isn't this also an all-star crew of officials for the national championship game?
I believe that it's an all-star crew of officials from the Big 12.
Yes, from the Big 12.
But
yes.
Yeah, you're right. It is a group that has not worked together all season. And so, yeah, as somebody tweeted this morning, what could go wrong? Well, a lot of things could go wrong. But you just got to hope that guys, obviously that they're picked for a good reason, that they're good officials, and they're going to have their homework done before the game. And you just hope that the game doesn't turn on some official's call. That's I think probably everybody's hope that the players on the field will decide it, and not the guys with the whistles.
Yeah, no part of this crew, I just looked it up, no part of this crew has worked a game together before, and so, yeah, we'll see. But interesting, the theory, because I get it. I get the idea of putting the best of something, together to do what they do, but that may be one where you're better off rating the crews as a crew and then using the best crew in those games, instead of the best individual players.
Yeah, I think that's probably right, and it's probably more important, I think, the work together thing in this sport than it would be in, say, baseball, where they rate the officials very closely, and they do put together all-star crews of officials for umpires, I should say, for postseason play. But it seems to me that it's more important to have a cohesive group that's familiar with each other in a football game than in a baseball game.
Yeah, I'm with you, because the pieces are faster moving and there's a little different interpretation. Baseball is a lot more cut and dry as far as there's not a lot of subjective interpretation. He was either out or he was safe. That's all we have to figure out.
Right, and it's pretty well delineated whose call belongs to whom.
Yeah.
In terms of the place on the field where the call is made. But anyway, it's like I said, I just hope that we're not talking about the officials tomorrow morning.
No, absolutely. That should hopefully be the last mention of the officials here for tonight's game. And I'll tell you, man, getting fired up, as you said, looking at this game here. By the way, looking at the attractiveness of this game in circles outside of just sports fans in the gambling. I don't know if you've heard, but they say that they're setting record levels of money being wagered on this game. It looks like it may pass last year's Super Bowl, and tonight's game should be the most heavily wagered college football game of all time.
Well, that's what makes the world go around, J-Rock.
People putting some bucks down on the Bucks and the Ducks here tonight. Just for reference, last year's Super Bowl, a record $120 million bet just in the Nevada sports books last year. So there's going to be some high levels out there, and the spread reflecting that. If you keep an eye on that kind of thing, it's bounced around all week. Oregon was as high as a 7-point favorite. They were down to 5 a few days ago after Carrington went out, which we'll talk about in a minute, but that stretched now back up as we head into game day here today. 6.5-point line heading into this one here tonight.
Yeah, I saw that the line had dropped down to about 5. I was not aware. It's not something I stay real up to date on, but back up to 6.5. You say so. I guess that's a little bit surprising. It seems to me, I don't know, maybe I'm just reading too many people that are Buckeye rooters, but awful lot of people are favoring the Buckeyes in this one and it seems like the reasons are many, and of course most of the beat writers I follow, and most of them I know personally after covering the team for a few years. It's they're understandably, I think, just kind of burnt out. In other words, let's kick it off. They're like the fans,
Yes.
They're trying to come up with another angle for another story, and they're good and sick of it after being down there for a few days and writing about it for a week beforehand. So I think there's no more analysis to be analyzed here. It seems like they're ready to kick it off, and obviously so are the fans. But not a whole lot you can say, but it seems like the people that are favoring the Buckeyes putting an awful lot of focus on Urban Meyer and his track record. Rightfully so. I mean, he's been there, he's done it. He's 2-0 in national championship games. He's 4-1 in BCS bowls. Everybody has a high regard for Mark Helfrich, including Urban Meyer, of course, because they know him and they consider themselves friends. But it is his first time there, and Oregon does have a track record of losing the big game instead of winning the big game. So I don't know how much that factor is a pure intangible or how much of it is really something that you can measure.